CEOs telling you what to think, who to hate, and who to vote for? Well, welcome to the Rick Smith Show. We don't take orders from some boardroom, and we don't do focus groups or talking points. We don't work for them, and we never will. I'm Rick Smith, and I work for you. Join us daily at thericksmithshow.com and download the podcast and never miss a minute.
It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. Back from vacation, and well, what a wonderful vacation. I did a whole bunch of bike riding, a lot more than my back enjoyed, but incredible time nonetheless. Did some whitewater rafting, spent a lot of quality time with my son. It was an incredible, did not, honestly, as much as I love coming, talking with folks, much as I love doing this, almost didn't want to come back. Got to be honest, vacation, good. But here's the thing. Here's part of the fun as well. Part of the fun, lots of people spending money like crazy, complaining at every turn. I think vacation and complaining seem to be two things Americans do really kind of well. It's like the American pastime, because no one that I met seemed perfectly content where they were, except, our little group that was just thrilled to be away. And I was able to put most of everything in the rearview mirror just for the couple of days we were away. Just to rejuvenate, re-energize, refresh, reconnect, out in the middle of nowhere with no internet, with no phone, in the middle of nowhere, which was fabulous, by the way. We rafted down the Lehigh River in northeastern Pennsylvania in the Pocono Mountains, the Lehigh River Gorge, where we did about 40 miles of bike riding. My backside not happy, but it was incredibly beautiful. The weather was perfect. It was great. It was great, except for the people, man, except for some of the people that we met. Angry on vacation. Don't know how that happens. But complaining, and you throw a little revisionist history in there. It was beautiful. Met a guy at the grocery store, because we did a little shopping at the grocery store, the local little shopping market. Complaining, gallon milk, $5, can't believe it. Outraged. Claimed last year it was $2.50, and it wasn't. Nationally, I checked, it was $3.55 a gallon. I was told by the people there that it was closer to $4 a gallon last year. He was just blowing off a little steam. But let's not crush the narrative. I actually looked last time milk was $2.50 a gallon was 1995. Just kind of throwing that out there. Adjusted for inflation, would have been $4.25 back then. I don't think he was complaining that much, because the narrative now is blame Biden for everything. The inflation is all Joe Biden's fault. And that's what we got a lot of. Everyone complaining about something. And everyone simply went along. It's, all the prices of everything, angry, But the thing that got me is they almost seemed to take comfort in the fact that they could blame Joe Biden. And there was part of me that goes, at least they feel some bit of control that the guy didn't have to buy the milk. He felt like he needed to vent, and I was okay to be there for him. I was okay to be there for him to help vent, and let him blow off a little steam at the fact that he's probably being ripped off at $5 a gallon, because the corporation that supplied that, the store got their little cut. Everybody was making money along the way, but he's still going to blame Joe Biden, because evidently Joe's not out there pumping enough milk. Just like Joe's not in the basement of the White House filling enough formula containers, just like he's not out there with the drilling enough oil, just like he's not doing enough. He's not doing enough production. Joe's not working enough. At least that's what we seem to think. We're not blaming the right people. Sad reality, Americans are pessimistic about the economy. Surprise. In fact, in the latest Wall Street Journal NORC poll, I love this. Because I love the narrative. The narrative is things are horrible. Things are bad. Inflation's killing people. And look, inflation is bad. It's hurting people. I agree. But the media narrative is beautiful. Some 83% of respondents describe the state of the economy as poor or not so good. More than 1/3 or 35% said they aren't satisfied with their financial situation. That was the highest level of dissatisfaction since NORC began asking the question every few years starting back in 1972. Though, this is the part I love, though the poll's 4-point margin of error means that the new figures may not differ significantly from prior highs or lows. It means that the poll may mean nothing at all. It may be right where it was whenever. Could be within, who knows. But the narrative is, in the headline, Americans are deeply pessimistic about the economy. And we need to keep feeding that. We need to keep feeding that outrage candy. We need to keep getting people angry because, well, it sells. It sells. And I've been saying for a while, the good folks at the Business Roundtable, they know what they're doing. They do know what they're doing. They're showing dissent because they don't want the kind of reforms that the Biden administration is talking about. They don't want workers to feel empowered. They're very angry at the Great Resignation. They're angry at workers who think they have choices. They want pliable workers. They want people who are desperate, and they want people who are going to show up to crummy jobs and accept. They want people to go, hey, at least I got a job. It may be bad. It may treat me poorly. It may have horrible benefits at low pay, but at least I got one. They're not happy. They're not happy with an administration that's supporting workers' rights. They're certainly not happy with an administration that's talking about undoing all of the damage that corporate America has done to the American middle class and the American working class over the last 50 years. They're not happy. They're not happy with that direction. They're thrilled the way things are. They are. They got hands firmly on the wheel. They're in control. Best democracy money can buy because they purchased it. Not happy. So when the narrative starts to change that, workers should be empowered, we should be making a reasonable living wage, healthcare should be a right, we should have some retirement security, there should be dignity and reward in work. When those things start bubbling to the surface, that has to be quashed. And a lot of this, I think, is baked into this. Now, great opportunity, make Biden the scapegoat, line our pockets, beautiful. Because you know who's not hurting? Corporate America. The CEO class, not hurting at all. In fact, they're doing very well. Thank you very much. Shareholders doing very well. I know, but Jeff Bezos and them lost a bunch of money because the stock market's going down. You know what? They don't lose because they're not going to sell. They're not dumb enough to sell now. They know that it's a roller coaster. They know on the other side they're going to be fine. You know who's going to lose in this? The working class, because we always lose. Because they pull the strings of the puppet master and we fall for it every single time. Because when things get bad, what do? They blame Biden. They blame whoever's in the White House. Now look, he didn't do it, but it is his problem. He has to do something. And Democrats had better figure out how to do something before the election. That means Biden, that means Manchin had better get on board. They had better figure out how to do something on gas prices because everyone seems really unhappy about that. And again, I love the narrative. And I heard this a bunch of times from people over the weekend. Have you seen the gas prices? Yeah, I've seen them. They're horrible. It's killing me too. Joe Biden did this. No, he didn't. There are thousands of leases out there. CEOs can make their companies drill more. They can choose to increase supply. They choose not to because they're very happy where the prices are right now. They're producing less. They're making more off of what they're producing. It's beautiful for them. You, me, the rest of us, not so much. And this is where we in the working class are led around by our corporate-controlled for-profit media, especially on the extreme right. Was at another supermarket where the woman in front of us was telling us about this grand conspiracy of what's happening with our food supply. We've got 9 weeks of food left because they're bombing factories or whatever the tale she believed was being spun by the Newsmax folks. They're burning food factories. A plane crashed into another. I saw it on Newsmax. And as soon as she said Newsmax, I just said, I don't want to hear anymore. I'm on vacation. Please stop. I don't. There's nothing there that's anything close to reality. I have no use for them whatsoever. Please stop. Please. And she was adamant. They tell the truth. They're not Democrats. They're not Republicans. They don't have an agenda. And I'm going, how is it that this woman believes this? Because it's like a lot of this stuff that these extremist groups throw out there. There's a kernel of truth somewhere in the story, and they throw a whole bunch of things together that have nothing really to do. Were there factory fires? Yeah, across the country there have been several of them. A plane did crash into a cereal factory, I think a month or two ago. Did it have anything to do with the one halfway across the country and maybe the one, 3/4? No, it had nothing to do with it. But they packaged them all together, said make it sound like a conspiracy, and never mind the gaps in time. No, they happened today. Because we were looking at each other going, did we miss something while we were on the river? Did something happen while we were asleep? And they package everything, like this is all part of the crisis. There's going to be a cereal shortage. And I'm like, okay, so there's a cereal shortage. Eat oatmeal. How hard is that? No, there are 9 weeks we're going to be out of food. And I'm going, okay, where are you getting this from? And this is where the right wing does a masterful job of convincing the people who want to know things and want to be the ones who stand up in front of the checkout counter at the local supermarket and tell perfect strangers that they know because they were told by this right-wing outlet that they believe that the reason that there's no baby formula is because there's a global conspiracy to bomb cereal factories in Georgia. You figure it out because I can't. But somehow these right-wing outlets spin this conspiracy theory in a way that these folks, they buy it. And then they go out into the world and they proselytize. They go out into the world and they preach the word. And this is something unique to the right-wing mind. This is something unique to right-wing ideology because the left doesn't do this. They're not that kind of group flock mentality. They're too smart for that. They all have their own little silos and their own little information. The right, they're like the church. They have their narrative and they all stick to it. And it was quite amazing at how many people I ran into on my vacation who were trying to convince me that there is a global conspiracy to end food. It's bizarre. And, a listener over the weekend sent me an email that got me thinking. It was an article by this guy named John Pavlovitz. And he writes this piece. He says, I sense a corporate emotional weariness in kind people these days. The accumulated scar tissue created when you absorbed more bad news, predatory behavior, and attacks on decency than your reserves can manage. Sustained cruelty will do that to the human soul. He says there's only so much contempt for humanity our minds are able to process until one day something snaps and we lose our ability to respond with the same urgency and resilience we once had. A low-grade hopelessness sets in, slowly replacing our activism with apathy and one day rendering us immobile. Cruelty sickness is what he says. And I started thinking about this because we were on the river and a couple of the rafts had flipped over in one of the really more treacherous whitewater areas. And in fact, we had to wait for like 45 minutes for them to get the one group off the rocks. And it was really, really a dangerous situation, as the person told me. There was another raft of people who were very angry. And, because she practiced toxic positivity, she said. We should have just left them, was her position. Just leave them behind. Let the rest of us go. This is the kind of thing, and as soon as I read this cruelty sickness, I thought of this young girl that, probably in her mid-20s, that we met on the river, who I was just taken back by. Going, this is that kind of mentality that this right-wing sickness that's gripped our country has brought to us. This emotional weariness of there's no more compassion, there's no more empathy, there's no more willingness to help. It's amazing. We were, a boat flipped over, so immediately we turned to help someone into the water, out of the water into our boat. And I was amazed at how many people just paddled right on by. We're not the society anymore, and I want us to be. We better figure out how, because we are suffering from cruelty sickness. We are suffering from something that is bad for our souls. Just my thought. I'd love to hear yours. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com, or give us a call, 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. Love to hear your thoughts. But vacation was fantastic. Enjoyed the time, even with some of the craziness and the ridiculousness that I encountered. But you're going to get that anywhere, aren't you? If you miss any of our program, make sure you grab the podcast. Never miss a moment. Quick break, right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk. If you're a fan of the show, you've heard our labor history in 2 segments, and you can hear them on the radio pretty much anywhere in the U.S. Labor history has never been more important than it is right now. So here's what we'd like you to do. Tell a teacher. Tell a teacher that labor history is important and that they can get digestible 2-minute lessons that are absolutely free. Free to download, free to use, free to share. Tell a teacher to go to thericksmithshow.com/history and help us put labor back where it belongs, in the classroom. Generations of American workers fought, bled, and died to build the American way of life. It's our job to keep their stories alive. Go tell a teacher that we're here to help them do just that. Find us at thericksmithshow.com/history today.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. Check out the website, thericksmithshow.com. If you got a question, comment, something on your mind, want to hear it. Evidently, our Supreme Court has turned down the St. Louis couple who decided they were going to point their guns at the Black Lives Matter protesters, meaning that means that their law license have been sanctioned, and I'm okay with that. Good on them. Also, senators are looking at possibly some kind of a deal by the end of this week. That's what is being reported by the folks at Punchbowl News. I'm not buying it, so we'll see. Not holding the breath. Now, Joe Manchin has said he's got some support for possibly raising the age to purchase semi-automatic weapons to 21. Also has questioned why people would want to or need to own an AR-15 style weapon. Don't get your hopes up. Joe Manchin does this. This is what Joe Manchin does. It's who he is. He's Lucy. This is the football. Get ready, Charlie Brown, to be on your back and looking up at the stars days, because expect nothing here. Because here's the reality. The reality is he's from West Virginia. And it's a state, it's a gun state, like where I live, gun state. People are okay with it. In fact, the most recent CBS poll found that 44% of Republicans say that, well, these mass shootings, just something we're going to have to get used to. It's going to just part of a free society, part of the culture, part of what we're going to have to get over it. Yep, we're helpless. Can't do anything about it. Can do nothing about it. Now, Arizona U.S. Senate candidate Blake Masters, he, on the other hand, has a different take. It's black people. That's it. It's their fault. That's his theory. Gun violence in this country is all because of the blacks. Yeah, that's that. And also, again, I love these these folks, these Republican politicians. And look, I can't believe that they're going to take the House and the Senate in November. I'm still hoping we wake up and someone shakes us awake and says these people are crazy. This Michelle Fiore, she loved this. She believes that the shooter in Texas, Uvalde, Texas, was transgendering. Transgendering. That's her word. It was transgendering. On the drugs, the psychotropic drugs, and doing the transgendering. Even though neither are true, kept repeating it. No proof, no anything, just going to continue to repeat it ad nauseum. But this is what they do. Now, look, Paul Gozer, right away, he came out and said, the killer was transgender, and immediately the right jumped on it. This is what they do. It's just fun and entertaining to listen to the right wing. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she did the same thing, regurgitated the insanity. The best part about Marjorie Three Names, she has hired an unpaid intern who actually defended pedophiles. I love it. Milo Yiannopoulos, yeah, he's an unpaid intern for Marjorie Three Names. How fun is that? Let's quick go to the phones. Got Julie from Chicago on line one. From Illinois. What is it? Julia from Illinois. Julia, what's on your mind?
Yes, how are you? What's on my mind, I have no trust for Republican concepts. All I hear are insults, criticism towards the poor, minorities, immigrants, you name it. They're insulting it. It's been the same since the 80s. I have no trust. Without trust, there is little tolerance. Now, who eroded trust in this society? Well, the previous administration did a grand job. Donald Trump created a sense of mistrust that I have never seen before. I thought Reagan was bad. I thought Bush was bad. I was wrong. I admit it, and I overlooked the Tea Party degeneracy. I thought it was a joke. I did not take it seriously. Again, I was wrong, and I've changed. Now I'm taking them very seriously. But to even consider their concepts, it's too much. I'm in my 50s. It's over. I'm done.
Yeah. No,
so,
and we've got to start.
I'm going to come across as intolerant. I'm listening.
I appreciate it, Julia. Thanks so much.
Okay.
No, I mean, this is where I'm at as well. The reality is she's right. Trump did finish off what trust was left. You go back to Reagan. All these years, it's been government's the problem. Government can't do anything. Government shouldn't do anything. And Trump finished it off. And it's always been amazing to me that people vote for Republicans who tell you that the government shouldn't, can't, or won't do anything, and then expect anything more than what we got out of them. This could be, and I keep saying this, where I live in Pennsylvania, this could be the last election that most of us get to vote in where the outcome isn't predetermined. And I don't say that lightly. That is sadly where we're heading. You've got candidates like the one in my state, Mastriano, who said I may not take the results. We've got scary times ahead. We've got to get our heads up. We've got to stand up, walk forward, fight back, and get to those polls and cast our votes. And then demand Democrats do the right things. Just my thoughts. Love to hear yours. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Quick break. Right back. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2 on On this day in labor history, the year was 1989. That was the day the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Environmental Protection Agency raided a Department of Energy facility just outside Denver, Colorado. Rockwell International operated Rocky Flats plutonium processing plant on behalf of the federal government. From 1952 until 1989, workers there made plutonium triggers for nuclear warheads. They reported procedurally unsafe working conditions and rare forms of cancer. Workers also worried about disposal of radioactive material and the potential public health threat the facility posed. Just after 9 a.m., 90 FBI and EPA agents executed Operation Desert Glow, beginning their raid and investigation into potential environmental crimes at the 6,000-plus acre facility. According to Kristen Iverson, author of Full Body Burden, Growing Up in the Shadows of Rocky Flats, evidence collected over the course of 18 days indicated that for more than 30 years, spills, leaks, and waste disposal practices have contaminated dozens of sites around the facility. The most significant public health issue is groundwater pollution, and more than 2,640 pounds of plutonium is missing. The 21-month grand jury investigation revealed that the facility had been burning radioactive and toxic waste in an incinerator for decades, despite regulations requiring its shutdown. It also revealed secret dumping of radioactive waste into officially closed waste ponds. Infuriated jurors wrote their own grand jury report when they learned a plea deal had been cut with millions in fines, but that there would be no indictments. Their report remains sealed. Rocky Flats was eventually declared a Superfund site, and years of cleanup began. In 2001, Congress decided to turn most of the acreage into a wildlife refuge with park trails for hiking and horseback riding. Rick Smith here, host of The Rick Smith Show. You know, Father's Day is just around the corner. And if your dad is as hard to find a gift for as my wife and kids claim that I am, here's a little gift-giving wisdom from our friends at Omaha Steaks. Dads want steaks. It's true. We do. Every holiday in my house, it's the same thing. Dad, what do you want for this holiday? And, I always give the same thing. Give me a hug and spend a little time with me. I don't need ties or cologne or any of that stuff. And now, thanks to Omaha Steaks, they ask, Dad, what do you want? Steaks. Give me the Dads Want Steaks package. Just go to omahasteaks.com, type Rick Smith in the search bar, and order the Dads Want Steaks package. And for just $99, this limited time package includes 16 mouth-watering entrees that I love, and I guarantee he'll love too. The smoky, tender, bacon-wrapped filet mignons, the gourmet jumbo franks, their air-chilled, boneless chicken breast, and of course my favorite, the thick, delicious, boneless pork chops. And to finish it off, the sweet finish of it all, the delicious caramel apple tartlets. And as a special gift for my listeners, when you type Rick Smith in the search bar and order the Dads Want Steaks package, you'll also get 8 free Omaha Steaks burgers. These are awesome. You throw them on the grill, cook them to perfection. These burgers are full of bold, beefy flavor, made from 100% Omaha steaks, and now they're bigger than ever, a whopping 6 ounces. So this Father's Day, don't wait. Send Dad more than just a gift. Send him an experience he'll love and can share with you. In fact, don't just order one. Get 2 Dads Want Steaks packages. One for him and one he can share with you. Just go to omahasteaks.com and type Rick Smith in the search bar and get the Dads Want Steaks package. You won't regret it. I guarantee it.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
Still stuck on some of the polling, the economic polling stuff, not great. And, this coming week, going to be a lot on the January 6th Commission. I don't think it's going to move anything. I think it's the economy, stupid. Got to do something about the economy. Let's quick go to the phones. Got Gary from Minnesota on line 1. Gary, what's on your mind, brother?
Well, Rick, I enjoy your program a lot. I like the union talk. My folks were in the union movement years ago. But, the price of oil, we don't get the full gist of it at what we pay at the pump because they got tons of subsidies, and we don't need these subsidizing them. We got to subsidize renewables, and look at the ecological mess we're getting from it. And I think this inflation, they're gouging the heck out of us. The bosses are making money hand over foot. I think they knew Biden would get blamed for it because I don't think they believe in our democracy at all. I think they're behind this conspiracy. Remember the Koch network? They funded the Tea Party, and that started this stuff getting worse. And anyways, you don't think you're still enforce trust busting? I heard it's still on the books, and I'll get off the phone.
No, Gary, I'm right there with you. I've been saying for the longest time, who's our Teddy Roosevelt? Who's going to come in and start busting up all of the, who's our trust buster, and who's our Harry Truman? Who's going to be the person who's going to have the commission, who's going to look into all the profiteering, who's going to bring these CEOs in and hold them accountable? Who's going to go after these profiteers and who's going to go after these folks and hold them accountable? I've been saying that for a while, Gary.
Yeah, they're after to destroy our New Deal completely. They privatized Medicare. And next to Social Security, if they take over all of Washington, just watch it.
Yep.
This is really scary what's going on here, and our democracy itself, like you said. I'll let you go.
Thanks so much, Gary. Appreciate the call. But no, the reality is, and this is what I've been saying all along, the reality is these CEOs, they know they got us by the short hairs. They got someone to blame. They've got a corporate-controlled right-wing media structure that's going to feed the outrage candy, going to bang the drum and feed the mindless folks like I met at the grocery store with all that conspiracy talk of blame Biden, and at least they have someone to blame. And then they can go about their day. They're still going to get ripped off. They're still going to get screwed over. They're still going to end up in a worse off situation, but at least they can blame someone. And when they do act on it, who's going to benefit? Well, our CEO class, which is why it's interesting to me watching and listening to these extreme right-wing groups and some of the craziness that's coming out of their mouths. Why? I don't know that it's going to move the election because I think we're almost inoculated to it. And here's somebody who spends his days watching just how crazy our media has gotten. I've asked my good friend Peter Montgomery to come share some thoughts with us. He's a fellow over at People for the American Way. They do Right Wing Watch, a project for the People for the American Way. They monitor and expose the activities of the radical right and their political organizations. Peter, thanks for taking time for us.
Hey, appreciate it having me on.
Just talking with Gary there a second, the reality is the messaging that's coming out, the kind of stuff that's being spoon fed to the working class of this country is, all of this screw job that's going on, all Biden's fault. The fact that milk's $5 a gallon, the fact that gas is almost $5 a gallon, the fact that prices are going up, that working class folks are struggling, all Joe Biden's fault.
Right. And nobody seems to be talking about the fact that when Trump came in, pretending that he was the voice for the lost people, the people left behind, what did he do? He passed a massive tax cut for the richest people in the country and the corporations. And that was more than $1 trillion that it could have spent on infrastructure. It could have created a lot of really good jobs for working people. But that's who he was.
And but it was Joe Biden giving me and you and working people $1,400 that caused all this inflation. See, gave all that money away to the wrong people. I guess is that what we're supposed to take from this? We, instead of giving money to the rich people, Biden gave a little bit to help people make it through the rough time, and that's what caused the inflation. Is that what I'm getting from this?
Yeah, and I'm not sure exactly how that was supposed to have caused the inflation that's happening all around the world right now. So.
Yeah, but here's the thing. We're Americans. We don't care about the rest of the world. And look, our media specifically and deliberately doesn't tell us all of the other things around the world. So, shh, don't tell them.
Okay, I'll keep quiet.
No, I'm not being serious. I mean, this just seems to be one of those kind of moments where you go, it's so absurd to go, no, we're the only ones. We're the only ones.
Right. Biden inflation is what they're calling it. And you think about all the shocks that we've had, the war in Ukraine, the sanctions on Russia preventing food from getting out of Ukraine. I mean, there's so much going on right now that's playing into the economic mess. But
yeah, I mean, it's There's so much going on. And now this week, they're going to be the start of these hearings, which are going to be interesting, but I don't think are going to move the needle at all. And today, the story, which is why I brought you on, a couple of more of these Proud Boy leaders charged with seditious conspiracy, which I said, why didn't January 7th? Why wasn't this the charge back on January 7th? Why weren't we locking these people back? What is this? We're middle of June, we're beginning of June 2022, right? This is a year, almost a year and a half. Why is this taking so long?
I think it's because they're being very careful. I think the Justice Department is being very careful. And first of all, it was just a massive thing. There were thousands of people involved around the Capitol that day. They had to build the cases. They had to identify people. So far, more than 800 people have been charged with crimes on that day. I think the seditious conspiracy charges against the Proud Boys that just came out are on top of seditious conspiracy charges against 11 Oath Keepers that came out in January. And so I'm really looking forward to the public hearings that the January 6th committee is going to start holding this week and will be holding for the next couple of weeks, because I think they're really going to lay out this was a crime against the country. It was not just the people who were at the Capitol. It was the people who for weeks planned and schemed to convince Americans of a big lie and to convince Americans that, it was worth going to war against their own government.
Yeah, I said on January 6th, I said that night when we came on the air, I said, you know what, I'm not really concerned all that much about the people who defecated on the floor or urinated on the desk or broke windows. Not all that concerned. We got to get them. You've got to hold them accountable. Absolutely. But I want the people who planned it. I want the people who funded it. I want the people who benefited from it. And I'm hoping that's what these hearings are going to bring us. I want the moneyed interests who are behind this, the people whose benefit this was all going to be. I want the people who wrote the memos, who pushed the memos, who were actually the power brokers behind this.
And I think we're going to get a lot of that. I think the committee is looking at a couple of different big chunks of this. One is Trump's inner circle, his advisors, his political strategists. One is his legal team and all the different ways that they're trying to concoct to usurp the election, to convince Pence to violate the Constitution and violate the law and somehow throw the election to Trump. I think that's all going to be laid out in really explicit detail, along with more details about the conspiracies, to create the violence that would prevent Congress from affirming Biden's victory that the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys have been charged with.
Now this seditious conspiracy charge, let's say they're all found guilty. What does this mean? I mean, I don't think a lot of people know what this would get. What kind of penalties are we looking at here? Are we lining people up and shooting them in the ellipse, or what are we doing?
We're not going to be doing that. It's very similar to treason, but it's not treason. And I'm not a lawyer, so I can't really parse that out too much. But I think that it's 20 years in prison for seditious conspiracy. So it's a serious charge. It's not like some of these, misdemeanor kind of trespassing things that some of the folks who went into the Capitol but weren't really involved in the violent attacks and the police have gotten some smaller charges. But I think these are really serious charges. It's very serious jail time, and I think that it's laying the groundwork to eventually go after some of the Trump inner circle. I hope that these people were conspiring with, Trump's legal team and his political strategists and members of Congress were all part of this.
Do you think this rises to the level of getting Trump? I mean, I said from the beginning, I don't believe, and I still don't believe it's going to rise to that level. I still don't believe we're going to hold him accountable. And yet I see, Jamie Raskin was interviewed by Vanity Fair and said, Trump is a one-man crime wave. Do we hold the one-man crime wave accountable?
I think we have to see. I think a lot of people share your skepticism. I mean, he's gotten away with stuff his whole life. He's gotten away with stuff throughout his presidency, and he clearly has gotten away with stuff so far. We'll see just how much evidence the committee can bring out. We'll see just how many more indictments the the Department of Justice is going to bring with its criminal investigation. There's a lot of smart people and investigative power being applied to get at the truth.
Yeah.
And that's in spite of the fact that, all these members of Trump's inner circle and members of Congress are actively trying to sabotage the investigation. They are breaking the law by refusing to comply with subpoenas. So the law breaking continues. It did not end on January 6th.
Right.
One of the things in the indictments against the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers that made it clear is that they didn't stop on January 6th either. They continued conspiring, and Stuart Rhodes of the Oath Keepers continued amassing weapons and talking about, civil war, even after January 6th. And so the law breaking is still going on, and I'm hoping that some of these folks will get held accountable. We did see a member of Trump's inner circle, Peter Navarro, arrested just recently. So that might be one sign that they're getting closer.
It would be interesting. I mean, the past has shown us we don't go and hold presidents accountable for their past acts. It's just not something we've done. So the safe money is we're not going to go after and hold Trump accountable. Although I think we should. At some point, we have to hold someone accountable. Now, one of those people I think absolutely should be held accountable is my Congressman, Scott Perry, who is somebody who is knee deep or eyeball deep in this whole thing. Again, another one of these actors who I want to see what's role. We've seen some of the text messages. I want to see what his entire role was in this whole thing. As same thing with Marjorie Trader Green, and the same thing with Lauren Boebert, and the whole list of them.
Yeah, I agree. I am really, really hoping that they get held accountable as well. And I actually don't know how much we're going to see about their colleagues from the January 6th committee. I'm looking forward to finding that out. They're going to be spreading out their hearings over the next couple of weeks, and I think maybe each day's hearing is going to take a different theme. I hope one of them is about members of Congress, because there's a lot of truth telling that needs to be done there. I agree with you.
So how do you expect this to go out? Because part of this, I know on Thursday there's going to be a prime time presentation. I know they've hired a former TV executive to kind of help with the presentation, because you can't just have a boring trial, because nobody wants to sit through a whole trial. How do you expect this to play out? What do you see the future of this looking like?
So what we know now is that first prime time is going to be on Thursday this week. That'll set the stage, and I think we'll really see people like Jamie Raskin, who you mentioned, who's one of the most brilliant, clear-talking people we have in Congress, who can talk about why this is so important and what it means for the country. And then, I don't know if we know which days they're going to take up which topics. I don't think they've made that public yet, but I think the next hearing is going to be next week. And after the prime time, they'll have a few that are more daytime hearings, like 10 to noon, 10 to 1. We'll have a few of those over the next couple of weeks. They may close with another prime time to wrap it up. And then they're also talking about continuing to hold some hearings this fall, additional hearings this fall, maybe, where they will lay out, in addition to sort of more of the truth telling, that might get into proposed legislative fixes. How do we clear up whatever uncertainties there are in the law, the kind of things that Trump's lawyers are trying to exploit.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see. You listen to the Rick Smith Show here with Peter Montgomery. He's a fellow at the People for the American Way. You can check out their website, pfaw.org, if you want to see their stuff. Also, you want to check out the other work that they do, rightwingwatch.org. Lots of craziness and insanity. You want to see what the right wing's spewing? That's where you go, because, oh boy, the fun, the insanity, the conspiracy theory, right there, all not all of it, but some of it debunked as well. And the reason I bring that up is, I was on vacation this past couple of days this past week, and I'll tell you the number of people that I ran into who were just, actively regurgitating conspiracy theory we're 9 weeks to being out of food, and we're all going to starve because of Joe Biden, and this is a planned conspiracy. And you go, where are you getting this stuff from? What kind of kookery are you digesting? I'm often amazed at the conspiracy theory that they throw out. This one woman went on at the grocery store about how they're bombing food plants, and they're setting fires to food factories, which is why we have baby formula shortages. And you go, where did you? I heard this on Newsmax, and they threw a bunch of these things together. It was literal insanity. But she had put this into, it just happened within the last couple of days, and this is the reason food prices are so. She had a very strong narrative of why everything was happening, of a whole bunch of things that had no connection whatsoever to each other. But boy, they found the thread.
Yeah, it's pretty astonishing. We've really had, we had Pizzagate, then starting in 2017, we had QAnon, some combination of Fox News, and then all these things to the right of Fox News, Newsmax, OAN, all these characters who've developed social media followings, pushing these conspiracy theories, have really trapped a lot of people in these narratives of just wild falsehood and what just seems like so transparently like nonsense to folks who are not caught up in it. But a lot of people have gotten caught up in it. They're being manipulated. They're being lied to. Their fears are being stoked by people who, are either doing it for profit or power or both. And it's really tragic and it's dangerous. So I think it's important to expose what's going on, to try to reach people with truth telling, although that often doesn't break through. But it's a sad state to which we've come.
Now you spend a lot of time watching and consuming this stuff, and I'm off. Is there any way of walking this back? Is there any hope for us as a country? I mean, I ran into a bunch of people who outwardly seemed like decent, hardworking people. Then when you started going down some of these paths, talking about politics, talking about religion, talking about any of these other things, it quickly goes off the rails into some real dark territory with some really dark narratives. And it comes because, as you've pointed out, there are people out there spinning these tales for profit, for power, whatever. I've often argued that right-wing talk radio, most of the things that they spew, none of them believe. I've gone to these conferences over the years, and I met Alex Jones a couple of times. I never believed he was as crazy as he is now seemed to become. I always thought it was a shtick, and because it was profitable. I think now he's kind of gone off the the beaten path. But I just find that a lot of the people that are spewing this stuff, they know what the game is. It's just the people who are consuming it might not.
I think a lot of them don't, and that's why it's so dangerous. I think that's why there's a lot of overlap between people who buy this kind of conspiracy theories and people who are being sold racist replacement theories that have led to mass shootings. So it's not just it's not something to laugh at. I mean, sometimes you just want to laugh at the ridiculousness of the conspiracy theories that people are spouting. I mean, here it is, 21st century, we've got freaking flat earthers out there.
Yeah. It's frightening.
But it really has the potential to lead to violence, and then also to just really the election of people who have no business being in office, like you mentioned Green and Boebert and folks like that.
No, we've definitely got scary times ahead, and I'm grateful for the work that you guys do over at Right Wing Watch, bringing attention to this insanity. I hope folks will check it out, rightwingwatch.org, also pfaw.org for People for the American Way. Check out the work that they do. Peter, I appreciate the time. Always great stuff. Thanks for the information.
Thanks for having me on.
As always, good stuff, our friend Peter Montgomery. Love to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com, or give us a call, 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. This is The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1894. That was the day that the Colorado State Militia troops came to Cripple Creek to intervene in a mining strike. But unlike every other time in U.S. mining history that a state militia was called out, the Colorado State troops did not have their guns pointed at the miners. Instead, Colorado's populist Governor David Waite had ordered the troops to the area because he was concerned by the large private army of gun thugs the mining company was amassing. Cripple Creek was in gold mining country, at the base of Pikes Peak. In February, the mine operators had declared that the miners would have to work a 10-hour workday for 8 hours of wages. The miners could stay on the 8-hour schedule, but they would have to take a 17% pay cut. Outraged, the miners walked out of the mines. The Western Federation of Miners led the strike, which wore on for 5 long months with violence on both sides. The mine owners were determined to end the walkout and gathered a private gun force of more than 1,200 hired thugs. On June 5th, there was a standoff between the miners and the company-hired guns at the Bull Hill Mine. Unable to take the mine, the company guns instead unleashed their anger and fury on the townspeople of Cripple Creek. They raided homes, arrested people, and beat them in the streets. In response, the governor threatened to keep the state militia in the area until the strike was settled. The mine owners knew that they were beat, opting to settle the strike, marking a major victory for the Western Federation of Miners and their members.
It is for our little children that seem to us so dear. Good for us nor them dear workers, the bosses do not care.
Like what you hear? Check out more at laborhistoryin2.com.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
So, real quick, here's some good news. Ford Motor Company's announced 1,800 jobs to northeastern Ohio. And, of course, the Republicans waited no time to claim responsibility for that. The Republican governor, the Republican lieutenant governor, a bunch of Republican representatives patting themselves on the back, even though now remember, these are the people who are against the electric vehicles, against green energy, no Green New Deal. These are 1,800 new jobs. Why? Because Ford is going to, build their EVs in the Avon Lake plant there in Lorain County, which is a huge plant. I've been by it a number of times. They're saying, no, look what we've done. No, this is Biden's policies. Also, the president is pushing to a new executive order to spur more domestic production of solar panels and clean energy technology. Good on him. I'm sure Republicans will claim those jobs as too, because, hey, look, might as well. They get away with that every time they vote against a policy that the Biden administration has put forth, like the transportation bill, rebuild our roads and bridges and our infrastructure, running around. Look what we've done, even though we voted against it. So I'm hoping come election time, folks, remember these Republicans, all of them across the board, universally voted against investments in our country and are universally against the idea of investing in the future. Hold them accountable for this. They believe, let the free market do it. And on that vein, turns out, evidently, a retail holding company named Franchise Group, they are looking to buy Kohl's. So I give Kohl's 2, maybe 3 years to be in business before they suck this company dry and load it with debt and Toys R Us it. The future here, folks. What these companies do, they get their money, they get their investment back right away. They load it up with debt, suck it dry, all of its assets, and then cut it off to die. We've seen it played over time and time again. So don't be surprised. Mark it on the calendar. I predict 3 years. I'm giving it 3 years. Just my thoughts. But the jobs, we need those green jobs, and we need them in a big way. It would be nice if we had a functional Republican Party who would come along and invest the way we need to. Love to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Make sure you grab the podcast. You can get that at the website or wherever you get those podcasts.
Hurricane season, we got to remember, is 6 months. It's half of the year. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Buckle up and batten down. NOAA forecasts another active, long hurricane season. Exxon loses its bid to escape climate liability. Major global companies join forces to buy green at Davos. Plus,
if the Pebble project moves forward, it's going to enable other projects to move forward as well.
Good news. Biden EPA to block controversial Pebble mine in Alaska.
I thought that was blocked long ago. All of those stories and more straight ahead from BradBlog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news.
KCAA Loma Linda.